Good day, Lawrence. First time here. How are you going? Okay, it seems we can start. It's 2 o'clock, guys. Welcome back today. Yesterday we finished off with the if function, and today we're going to step it up with a nested if. I'm going to put the file into chat one more time so you guys can download it if you want to work with me. Okay, so let's go. I'm Mr. Stoltz. After the session, I'll just drop the link for the Google form for feedback if you want to give some feedback. If you've missed anything from the beginning of lockdown, you've got YouTube, Africa Teen Geeks, all the CAT files are there, other subjects as well. Snapperfly, we've got some free ebooks there. You can go look there. And then the Office 365, if you don't have Office 365, Marla MS helps you this year during lockdown. And then we've got the education.gov.za. You can go there and you can go check out on education.gov.za for past papers as well as the Western Cape Education Online. Okay, so most of the education departments has a .gov.za website. You can go check it out, but I do know the Western Cape and the education one is quite organized. So you can check there for all past exam papers, and that's what we're going to work on also a little bit today on past papers. Welcome to the people that's new. If you haven't got the file, please let me know. But we're just going to first do a little bit of if theory before we start with the practical side. Okay, so here we've got some Class Dojo scores for the past two days. We've got Anita and Carl and Emma there and Lauren. And I'll add the new guys there. You can gain points by attending class, answering questions, and just plain participating, giving answers, and so on and so forth. Okay, well done to those guys there. Okay, so we're back at the if function. So the if function that we did yesterday, we said there firstly it's a logical test, followed by a value if true, followed by a value if false, and it determines with your query or your criteria if it's going to be true or false, and it gives an answer. So we said if logical test, depending on which type of computer you have, it can either be a semicolon or just a plain comma, value if false, and in other words we said question, answer if it's yes to the question, what must there be if it's no to the question. So that was what we had on the yesterday, and today we are going one on. So just to sum it up one last time, that's an if function. Nested if means more than one if function combined into one. So we'll jump over to the nested if. So this is how it works. We've got the if, like we said, the if logical test, if it's true, if it's false. And that's when we have the first criteria comes when it's true. The second criteria comes when it's false. But the moment we've got more than two criteria, we've got the third one there on the right-hand side. We need an extra criteria so it can be fit into the formula. So that's when we do the following. It looks long now because it's typed onto the computer and it's in wording, but we'll see. So if we see there the first and the second is the exact same. Now these red blocks represents the value if true by number 1, and what would have been the second value if false is replaced it firstly by if logical test, comma, value if true, and then value if false. So there's a second one, value if true, and then the third one is value if false. So now you've made space for the third one. Okay, so now we've got space for 3. And this can go on until, I think, 55. But we never, ever do a nested if that long, because there is similar formulas like a VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP that could assist instead of doing a nested if as well. Okay, so let's work on the nested if. So to sum it up, and the easiest way to remember how many ifs you need in a formula is the amount of results or answers you have minus 1 equals the amount of statements you need. So if you've got, in this case, we've got 3 answers, minus 1 gives you 2, and that gives you the answer of 2 ifs that's needed for the query. So when we are working with something like levels for academic, level 1 to level 7, we've got 7 levels, you minus 1, and you get this, and you get 6, and that gives you, you need 6 if statements to complete an if statement or a nested if statement for the different levels you can get on a subject or on your grade. Okay, do you guys understand the amount of ifs we need? Thanks there for the answer, Carl. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Does everybody have that want to participate? Does everybody have the file? If you don't have it, just shout there in the chat, so I'll drop it again, and we can start moving over to working on the file. So this is the questions we're going to work with, and today we're going to do some a little bit simultaneously. So we'll work on it. So you can open the Excel document for us. Just jump to that screen quickly. And then you will see. Today I've changed it. So we've got 6 tabs there. At the bottom you'll see we've got 6 tabs there. And we are working with those 6 tabs. So that represents 6 questions. That's all from past papers. I'll quickly drop you the file, Anita. Okay, the file's there. Okay, so can everybody see my screen of the Excel? Too many screens open here now. Okay, great. Okay, so let's start with it's all past papers, and you will see sometimes yesterday we said they'll say it's an if function, and then they'll still mean it is an if function, and instead of a nested if function. So they'll never, only sometimes say it's a nested if, but most of the times they'll still call it an if function. Okay, so if we go to the first question, they are going to ask us for the deposit of a car. So it says there, a deposit for a car is calculated using the year, column F, and the selling price in column N as follows. And it says the year and the deposit. So 2014 or newer gets 10% of the selling price. 2010 to 2013 gets 20% of the selling price. 2009 or older gets 30% of the selling price. And then it says there, insert a nested if function in cell 06 to determine the actual deposit to be paid. And that's for 4 marks. Now, if you go there and you see, you've got 3 criteria. So the 3 criteria minus 1 gives you 2. And it says you need 2 if statements to complete that criteria. Okay, so if you go to 06, you will see it's question number 3.7 as well. Okay, so we are there. It's question 3.7, and they want us to work with a 2004 newer, 2010 to 2013, and 2009 or older. Okay, so we're working with deposit of the car that's calculated using column F and the selling price in column N. Okay, so this is a selling price, and here in column F is the year. So we are using these two. Okay, so these are the two we need, and then we're going to have to get an answer in column O. So we here on the orange here, or yellow, sorry, in 3.7, and then we can start. I'm just going to open this up a little bit, and we're going to go equals if. Now, we normally start with the bigger number first, and then we end with the smaller number. Or you can start with the smaller number first and end with the bigger number. Normally, using the bigger number first works the best. And you must always make sure you've always got the same type following all greater than or all less than, and so on and so forth. Otherwise, your function could start, it will work and it will stop because it is always bigger than something. So if we go there and we say equals if, so we need to test and see if F6 is greater than 2014. So we are checking if that car is built later than 2014. So semicolon or comma, depending on your device that you're working on. The value if true. If it is true, we want to have 10% of the selling price. So now we need to do a formula inside the value it's true, because we want 10% from your price. So this is your price. So we want the answer of 10%. And then you put in your comma. Now, where it says value if false or if it's untrue, so if it's not bigger than 2014, what must happen? You must look for the second one, which should be working with 2010. So we're going to see if, again, the same number, if 6 is greater than 2010, semicolon, and then it's again value if true. So what must happen when it's bigger than 2010? It must be 20% of the selling price. So you go 20% times your selling price. Other words, if it's 2009 or older, we have to go and say F6 and anything else. You don't even need to do the F6 one, because if it's not 2014, if it doesn't fall into the value of true or this value of true, it has to be times 50%. So you can just say N6 times 50%. And you don't need to, because it's a false statement, you can just write the false there. So if it doesn't fit into the first statement or the second statement, it will automatically fall into your last statement. And it says there you've entered too many arguments for this function because I've skipped giving the if. So you're supposed to, where you've said the logical test. So if I go here, you'll see it's my logical test. Value if true. And here where I said value if true, you just can't go on. You need to say, but if it doesn't fall in this one, we need to put in a new if. So when you put in a new if, it claims space for a new false, a new true, and a new logical test. So well done picking that up there, Anita. So always make sure if you want to add something where the false statement would have been, you must add a new if. So if I had one more criteria, we would have changed this value if false to an if, and we would have started an if from the start again, and we would have added him as well. Okay, so that's the one. And the second one is when you normally fall out. If I say enter here, it's going to ask me, we found a typo on your formula. I didn't close all my formulas. Okay, so for every single if, you need a bracket at the end. So there's the first if, the second if. So I need 2 brackets at the end. Well done there, Kyle. So if I say yes, it will change it for me automatically, and I will get an answer. So there's a double there for this one and for that one. So this is normally, and when that happens in a test, you think, oh, I don't know the formula, and you just skip the formula. Actually, you know the formula, you just made a typing error, or you made a small little mistake of forgetting to put the if again. Okay. So that's the small stuff. If you can get that right, you will have better marks. Okay, so let's see if we can drag this down. You see 2022. So let's say undo 22, 22, 22,500, and you can go, okay, 7,700. You can drag it down. You've seen, okay, we've made a mistake, and that's good for that, Carl, for checking it down. And can anybody tell me where was the mistake? Because there was definitely a mistake, and I urge you guys to always drag it down. Because if you drag it down, you know if you've made a mistake. Because this looks correctly. It looks right. You've started with a 2014, 2010, but we made one crucial error. We made a mistake by adding the wrong side. So if I change this to less than, and I say enter, you'll see 7,700 there at the bottom. And you'll see I've still had a little mistake there. Okay, so because we've changed this around, we need to change these also around, because otherwise it's not going to work. So if it says, if the answer is 2014, 2015, 2016, it should be 10%. So in other words, if this goes, we are working with 2015, so it should multiply with 10%. Okay, if I go to later than that, 2010, it should multiply with 20%, otherwise with 30%. Okay, so this is correctly. We just need to change these a little bit around. Okay, let's see. Yes, it would also be, yes, that's correctly there, Carl. So let's start doing this correctly so we can get the correct answer. Okay, so we've got there F6 equals F6, and this is the small mistakes that we make in exams and then we forget about it. So let's go. F6, it should be greater than, it's not less than, we made a mistake, it should be greater than 2014. Because we are saying if 2015 is greater than or equal to 2014, and we can go test. If it's true, it should say 1. If it's not true, it should say 0. So the answer should be 1. Okay, if the answer is not 1 there, let's check here quick, Carl. And you can say there, if F6, 2010. And this should be, did you just change there, the one there, Carl? Let me quickly start all over. Okay, so Carl said he just done this. So he just said that equals to 2014. Value, if it's true, we should go the price and we should times it with 10%. And we say there, comma pin, and we've got a value if false. We don't have a false value. We need a new one. We need a new if. So we say if again. And we've got a logical test there. And with the logical test, we have to say again, if 6 is higher than, we've got 2010. So we have to say higher than or equal to 2010. And we've got a comma point there, value if true. If it's true, we want the value and we want to times it with 20%. And then we've got the otherwise, if it's false, we just want the value times by 50%. And then we close it up. And we close it up again to close both ifs. And this is where we made a mistake there. And we've added it the wrong side around. I've done it again. This one should be the other way around. And then we will be fine. So enter. And we've got the correct answer. So always make sure both of these are the same direction. If it's not the same direction, it's going to counterbalance your formula. And always make sure you've got an equal. If it says 2014 or newer, or it says 2010 to 2013, it includes 2010 and it includes 2014. And then always make sure working from highest to lowest, and you guys will have it correctly. Okay, so this is the first one. If we go down, you will see it worked all the way correctly. Okay, so when you make a mistake, always check these few things first. If you work with the greater than and the less than, make sure you've started from highest to lowest, and then make sure you've got all the ifs in place, and the computer will help you with this, but always make sure you've got the correct number of closing brackets. Okay, so if we go to the second one, and this one we'll do correctly from the start, and then we'll work from there. New share here quickly. Okay, so this one says there has been an increase in the price of the song since the last update in the spreadsheet. Okay, so the increase in the price are as follows. A code 1 song gets increased by 20%. So if it says it gets increased by 20%, you have to plus 20%. Okay, code 2 gets 25%, and code 3 gets 15%. Okay, so that's the CD, the DVD, and this MP3. Insert a function in H2 to determine the new increase price based on the information above. Okay, so let's go back to our Excel quickly. Just make sure it's the correct one. Okay, so we are working on sheet 2, and we are with question 4.4. Okay, so they are working with the code from your song that they're working on. And here's the codes in cell A. And they want to increase the price by 20%. So this is the cost, or either 20%, 25%, or by 15%. Okay, so we've got 3 criteria again. So it gives us 2 if functions. And we can start with a code again. So we've got code 1, 2, and 3. If I go down here, you'll see that it's not just code 3s, it's code 2s and 1s as well. And then we can start. So what are we starting with? Equals if. And now, because there is only 3 codes, you can say if A1 or A2 equals to the number 1, if it's true, the code 1 should be price multiplied by 20%. And then you close the value if true. So if it's a 1, we want to increase this price by 20%. You can go bigger than 1, bigger than 2, bigger than 3, but it leaves you chances for making mistakes. And because there's only 3 codes, we just add the code. So if A2 equals 1, it's down 20%. Okay, then the next one, we've got the value if true. We jump over to value if false. Now we still got 2 criteria left. So we start with a new if. And it's asked for a new test where you can say if A2 equals 2, semicolon, and it says what happens with it. We have got to G2 and we times it with 25%. And it's a semicolon, a value if false. So if it's not 1 or it's not 2, it has to be number 3. So we can just say we can take the cost and times the cost with 15%. Okay, now for academic purposes, that would be correctly. If you do have a business, let's just see there. Close it twice because you've got 2 if functions. And if you press enter, you will get your answers. Now for academic purposes, yes, sometimes if you say enter, they just want the price that was raised. So for academic purposes, this would also work. But if you work in a business, you want to have the new price. So if the question says, determine the new increased price, we want to go and say, we need to have the price plus the price times 20%. Or, like I said yesterday, because we're increasing the price, we can just times G2 with 120%. Okay, so you can either go G2 times 120%, because it's normal price. If you say G2 times 100%, it's going to give you 15 bucks. But if you say, let's times it with 120%, it's going to increase the 15 to increase by 20%. Well, that's the one way. Or you can say, if you want the safer way, or the other way, you can say G2 plus, we want to have the answer of G2 and 20%. So all of them are correctly, depending on your math skills. If you know when it's 120% or when should it only be 80%. So if you decrease, you go less than 100. If you increase, you go above 100. Or you can do this one as well. So both of them are correctly, but don't leave your answer plus with just the increased price. Okay, so we want the new. We want to have the 1755. So if you've left it and you would have only gotten the normal price, you would have gotten marks for everything except for these G2 plus G2 times 20%. Okay, so you must read your question. So if I go back to my question, and I check the question, it says there, determine the new increased price. So you should have the correct answer that says cost plus cost. Okay, if they just said they want the price it's increased by, or anything else, you leave out the G2 plus G2 answer. Okay, well then, did everybody get that in correctly? if you don't understand anything, just pop a message and I'll quickly explain something again. Well done there, guys. Okay, so let's jump over to the third one. And if I go to the next slide here, you will see there. Okay, so on the third one, they say they insert a function in cell N6. So we're working on cell N6 to determine the severity level using severity percentages in column M as well. Okay, so now they're using column N for the function, and they are using what's stated in column M to increase. So if it says 50%, a percentage of 50% or more, should say severe case. Anything more than severity percentage of more than 15% and less than 50, so between 15 and 50, should be classified as severe. And if a severity percentage of less than equal to 15% are classified as moderate. I'll try and explain again, Lesedi. Thank you there. So you always need to just remember, write down on paper. So make yourself this little block every single time. So I'm just going to jump back one. This little blocks helps a lot. Okay, because you can see this is the criteria one. You've got the criteria, what must happen with the criteria. Criteria, what must happen. Criteria, what must happen. And if you can write yourself just on the exam paper with a pen, just the three answers you want, it becomes easier to insert it into the if. Okay, so let's go back to this one. So we've got the 50%. So anything more than, greater than 50% should be very severe. Everything more than 15, but less than 50 should be severe. And anything less than or equal to 15 should be moderate. Okay, so this does not include the 50% because it is more than. It does not include the 15% because it is more than. But the 15% less than or equal to should include by the moderate. Okay, so let's jump over to the if function. Okay, so we've got here, so this one was severe because it's 21, and 31 severe, 30 severe, 37 severe. So we are working with the percentage in column M, and we are going to work with question 4.5 here in N6. Okay, so we've got three criteria, so we need two ifs. So the first one is equals if. And okay, so we've got equals if. And now your first logical test would be if M, because this is where we're working with, the percentage, if it's bigger than 50%, because that's what it said there, the severity percentage of more than 50%. Okay, so we are checking, is 12 more than 50? If it is, the wording, so we put it into inverted commas, very severe, should show. So now, value of false, we've still got two criteria left. So we can't add a criteria there. So we need to go again and say, okay, if M6, because we always start with this, M6 is more than 15%, semicolon. Okay, so if it is more than 15%, what should happen to it? The wording severe must show. And then you say semicolon again, and then it goes. So if it's more than 50, it's very severe. If it's more than 15, severe. And if it does not fall into those two categories, so other words, 15 or less, it should say moderate. So you've got the value if it's false. So if it's not more than 15, it's not more than 15. So in other words, 15 or less, it becomes moderate. And then if you close up both, you say enter. You get the wording moderate because it's less than 15. So if I drag this down, you check severe. Okay, awesome. Let's quickly change this to 55%. Very severe. Okay, so I know my formula works. So if I go undo, and then I leave my formula there. If I've maybe changed these around, you will see different answers. You will definitely get there if it's less than 15. So all your answers would be very severe. So if you drag this down, you've done this the wrong way around, every single answer will show very severe. Okay, so after you've done it, after you've done your formula, check there 12. Okay, it should be in your table you just drawn. It should be moderate. You go down. Okay, we want something that's would be in the severe, so 15 or more. So yes, there's a 15 or more there. If you pull it up, you'll see, okay, severe, so it works. And then just quickly maybe change something to 50 or something or so on. Okay, it's severe, just to test and see if your answer is correct. Okay, so just by checking, by double checking yourself, you will know you've got that 5 points in the back. So this formula counted 5 points. So 1 point will be for the greater than 50%, very severe, greater than 15, severe, and moderate. So every single one would count to mark. And most probably, if you've made a mistake somewhere, but you already added the very severe, severe, and moderate, you would have gotten 2 or 3 points there for completing the if formula. Okay, depending on how the paper was set up, you normally get points for using an if, for the criteria, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's a nice easy 5 marks there. You just need to draw the block, work from the block, and you've got your 3 criteria, and you will set it up. Okay, any questions on that one? Okay, so we're jumping over to number 4. And number 4's question. Insert an if function in cell H3 to determine the protection level of the species using conservation target data in column D as follows. Okay, so a conservation target of more than 30 should display a protection level of well. Conservation target of more than 25 and less than or equal to 30 should be moderate, and the rest of the conservation target should display a protection level of poor. Okay, so now this one is 6 marks. Can anybody see the difference between this one and the previous one? Okay, both questions are quite similar. If you draw up your table, you will see you've got the more than 50, which should say well. You've got the more than 25, which should say moderate. And then you've got anything less or anything else that should say poor. Okay, so this is the exact same formula as the previous one, but this one counts 6 marks and the previous one counts 5 marks. So that was I was stating about the different question papers, depending on how it was. So sometimes it can count up to 6 marks, sometimes 5, sometimes you'll only get 4 for the exact same one. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few seconds to try this one out. Just jumping over. So you're working in cell H3 and you are working with the info in column D. And if you've got it right, you can PM me your answer if you want to, or you can just type the answer in the chat and then I'll work with it and show you the answer now. Okay, so you're working in this one and you are working with the column D. Okay, so I'm just going to drag this a little down till about H11. Are you guys getting this one right? Okay, Lesedi, Anita, you guys coming right? Still got Lauren there and Simpiwe. Welcome, Simpiwe. Okay, well then, Carl, I'm quickly going to explain there. Okay, so if you, it's quite the exact same as the previous one. So firstly, if I work with this here, we're going to say if we're working with the conservation target, and we're saying if it's more than 30, your answer should be well. So if it's yes, it should say well. If it's no, if it's less than 30, we've got still 2 answers. So that's why we are adding another if. And if we add another if, we must give them a new criteria, which we said if this conservation target is more than 25, but it is less than 30. Because if it was 31, it would have stopped by well. It will not go past. So it goes, okay, I can't go past, I'm bigger than this, so I'm staying here. Okay, so if it's more than 25, moderate. And if it's not more than 25, so in other words, 25 or less, your answer will be poor. And there you've got it. So 3 criteria. So it's 2 if statements, and you've answered it. So if I say enter, you will see 19 is poor. And if I change this to 26, it becomes moderate. And if I change this to 31, it becomes well. Okay, so then you just undo it, you keep it there, and you know your if formula has worked correctly, your nested if. Okay. Any questions on that one? Okay, keep the questions firing in if you've got any questions. We're going to jump over to the last 2 for today. And here's the last two. Okay, so last two questions here. Yeah, I've seen so. Let's say it gets complicated because you can use it always. Thanks for the time warning, Carl. We'll do one quickly. Because Kat, this helps you with a lot. So we're going to do one more. We're going to do the glass one. So each class could win a prize if they reach a certain target. So if they get more than 80%, they get a backpack. If they get more than 60 kgs to 80 kgs, they get a t-shirt. And if they get less than 60 kgs, they get nothing. Okay, so it's exact same as the previous ones. So we've got a if it's true, it's a backpack. Else, if it's true, it's a t-shirt. Else, they get nothing. So if I jump over to 5 and do the last one quickly, we at question 4.2. We had question 4.2 here, and then we will go there. So it says equals if, and then it says logical test. We are working with the answer, and now we're working with the total mass in column F. Okay, so we're working, and it's glass. So we're not working with total, we're working with the glass. So if the glass E7 is more than 80, you get a backpack. If so there's it's more than 80, you get a backpack. Else, we add a new if glass is more than 60, we get a t-shirt. And else you get nothing. So there, the first if it's more than 80, you get a backpack if it's true. We can't have a false, we've still got two criterias. And we jump over to the next one. If glass is more than 60, you get a t-shirt, otherwise you get nothing. So bigger or equal to 60, yes, well done. Bigger or equal to 60 because it said 60 to 80. And the following question said less than 60. So this one doesn't include the 60 and the t-shirt includes the 60. So it's very important to read your questions very clear so you can have the correct when you know when it doesn't include the equal and when it does include the equal. Okay, so if there you've entered too many arguments for this function, again, remember always to add your if. If you don't add your if, it's always going to tell you too many arguments. That's the first thing. And the second one is if you don't add the second one, it's going to give you a pop-up there. So this is mainly the two biggest pop-ups you get from a nested if function. And now you know how to debug it. I'm going to drop the Google form in the chat. So you can, guys, if you want to say anything there, you can go ahead and answer it. If you want to go ahead and answer it, you can go answer it. Thank you, guys, and have a nice day. I'll see you guys again on Monday. Have a good weekend. Have a good weekend. If you don't understand anything, we can just say there in the Google form, and we can have a little bit of discussion about nested if on Monday again. Okay, goodbye everyone. Take care. Cheers, Lucille and Carl and Anita. Thank you all. Have a good weekend.